Good evening and welcome back to the Endeleo show, better known as By Any Greens Necessary. I am your host, Executive Director Melvin Thompson of the Endeleo Institute. Endeleo is the Swahili word, I got caught up there a little bit, for progress, growth, and development. We are the nonprofit community development arm of Trinity United Church of Christ, located in Washington Heights along the 95th Street corridor. Trinity is located at 400 West 95th Street. We support the church's farmers market, which takes place every Saturday. There are 4 incredible Saturdays left in this this September month. We're at that point now where we're closing down. There's football in the air and all of this other stuff. The seasons are changing. The weather's getting a little bit cooler. It's really that really good time. We're getting much more foot traffic at the farmers market as expected. When people start to sense summer is starting to slip away a little bit, we start getting more people and more traction. So we welcome it. You can call us. We've got a call-in number at 312-738-1060. That's 312-738-1060. You can talk to me about anything that's on your mind. Today I definitely want to talk about investment, and particularly long-term investment, and I'll share that with you for in a minute. But just want to talk about the wonderful market we had and the incredible weather that started out a little bit on the cool side, but eventually got to that real warm spot that was so tolerable. And the market Saturday coincided with a tremendous turnout for our prison ministry free clothing giveaway, which is literally next door in the next parking lot over from the farmers market. So as usual, folks were lined up at as early as 8:30 in the morning for a 10 o'clock opening. And so that really warms our heart when we see the community come out and take advantage of the generosity of folks that have probably way too much that are sitting in their closets and no one's using it. And I saw so many good items and clothing items that were donated. I know that some people were blessed. And so, at the end of the day, you've got good food, good clothing, community coming together all in one space. I wish we could do that every week because it's such, folks look forward to it every year, and we really see the benefits of it. And I always tell the story of the gentleman a couple of years ago who was a beneficiary of some free clothing and came back to the farmers market one day and said, "Melvin, I just want to tell you guys how you blessed me." And I'm like, "Okay, how did we bless you?" And he told me, he said, "Listen, you had the free clothing giveaway last year. I got a suit, fit me perfectly. And then the alderman in the ward gave me a tip on a job. I wore that suit to that particular job, and I got the job." So, how cool is that? That's the bottom line of why we do what we do. And sometimes, we can get a little bit ahead of ourselves in terms of thinking that, folks need to eat healthy, which we know they do, and that they need to have these wonderful fruits and vegetables and as part of their lifestyle, not their diet, if you notice, their lifestyle. But sometimes there are other things like having a job, having the lights on, having your utilities on, making next month's rent that take priority. And so when I see and hear a story of a young brother who comes to us, so thankful that he comes after the fact, because folks aren't, some people are grateful and you never hear from them again. But for someone to come back and relay that story to us and to me is the reason why I do what I do, and why we have such a dedicated team at Endeleo to do what we do, because this is a ministry for us. We're a nonprofit, we're 501c3 and all that good stuff, from a legal standpoint, but we are a ministry. I mean, this group, this education, health, and community development, they all started out as Trinity Ministries years ago under our pastor emeritus, and now our pastor, I don't say our new pastor because he's been there like 12 years now. So, Reverend Moss had the presence of mind to combine all three of those ministries that eventually became corporations, and that's what you have in Endeleo today. You have Endeleo Health, Endeleo Education, and Endeleo Community Development. And I can tell you, we're so excited about all of the community development activities that are happening in and around the 95th Street corridor. There's just so much happening along the corridor, and our mission, if you've heard this program once or twice or 100 times, is to revitalize our 95th Street thoroughfare. And stage one basically encompasses 95th and Halstead, east to 95th and the Dan Ryan. And so if you've been down that corridor any time recently, that you will see that wonderful, restored, beautiful, awe-inspiring Carter G. Woodson Regional Library on the southeast corner of 95th and Halstead, and it is just gorgeous. I think I talked about last week the incredible Illinois Black Panther exhibit that's going on all the way through the end of December. Do yourself a favor, find out about your history. I was just talking earlier about long-term investment. Invest in your history. Invest in things that have happened that are helping to shape what we're experiencing now. And so the exhibit is incredible. I've gone there many times. Actually spent some time there earlier this week to just marvel at the photographs of, the black and white pictures of, the community breakfast things that they put on the events, and all of these community related things. I think they get the handle of being this radical group, and in many respects they were, because there was a lot of racist and undertones and overtly that we were experiencing, particularly from law enforcement. And so we needed someone to speak up for us that would put themselves literally in harm's way to make sure that we were treated, in some kind of fair manner. So it's well worth the history. All of the photos and the literature and all of the really poignant times in that the Black Panther Party are displayed along the walls, and so it's well worth the trip. I mentioned that we had a young group of students. Most of them were white and Hispanic, just a few African American, that came from the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, one of our partners that put our 2016 priority planning report for the corridor improvement. They put that together, and they do this wonderful program that we engage our young people in called FLIP. That's an acronym for Future Leaders in Planning. And the future leaders this summer came out and spent some time at Woodson, spent some time at the wonderful new transit station. In fact, they walked from the transit station all the way to Woodson, a mile walk to give us some ideas about planning and what the corridor could use, and it was really, really insightful. But we ended it at the Woodson Library, and they got a chance to see that exhibit of the Black Panthers, and they were riveted by what they saw. And then Beverly Cook, who's one of the just incredible archivists at Woodson, gave them an impromptu presentation for about 10 minutes, and she blew them away. I mean, it was wonderful. So without further ado, I want to make sure that you see why we do what we do. This is the 10th anniversary of our community farmers market. We're located at 467 West 95th Street, better known as 95th and Normal. We're right there at the corner. We are open from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. and we're there rain or shine. The earlier you get there, the better. Our last farmers market will be September 28th, I believe. And so take advantage of these 4 remaining weeks. We have incredible watermelon. I'm sure Mr. Barker has his world-class, world-famous soup that you can take home, warm up, or freeze. I was in my freezer the other day and noticed that we had 2 bags from last year that we still haven't used, and so I can't wait to get into that. Maybe I'll check a little bit of it out tonight when the games comes on. But yeah, so make sure you come out and spend some time and invest in your community. And I want to get back to that whole idea of investing. I think one of the things we take for granted is the investment we make in ourselves, in our neighbors, in our loved ones. I mean, each and every day when we're raising our children, we're pouring into them what we think or what we hope and pray that they will become. And I was thinking about the market as I drove in, and I said, this is just a 3-month event that we've been doing now for 10 years. I mean, 10th year anniversary. But when you think about it, we had to start somewhere, right? We didn't have a market at one time, and all of a sudden, the idea of healthy food, fruits and vegetables in our community, harvested by people who look like us, became an idea. And from that idea, a market came, and we've got these incredible black farmers in Pembroke, Illinois, which is 60 miles just south of us near Kankakee, who have committed themselves over the last 10 plus years to cultivate, harvest, and carry all of this food to 95th and Normal, 60 miles every morning at the crack, every Saturday morning at the crack of dawn, just to not know whether or not they're going to sell out or not. And so, one of the things we should be thinking about is the investment that they have made in themselves, in their businesses, because they are entrepreneurs by any stretch of the imagination. These are quintessential entrepreneurs, and this is what we used to do before the world of work even came into existence. There was a PBS special on not too long ago. I think got repeated earlier this week about in the 17th century, the 16th century, and how things got bartered and exchanged. And it wasn't until maybe in the late 1800s that industrialization and all these things started to take place that took the place of entrepreneurship. And it was technology, for lack of a better word, and it made some things easier, but at the same time it eliminated some labor from the market, and so we had to adjust. And so each iteration of technology comes at a cost, and I think that cost is the human capital that we lose. And so I think it's important to continually be investing in ourselves as individuals. I know we tell that to our young people in our Upward Bound college and career readiness program, that college is wonderful and all the things that come with it, but at the end of the day, you really need to be investing in yourself more so than any college or any other institution will do, because at the end of the day, it's you that are responsible for you. And so this ongoing learning, whether it's your career, whether it's your education is a long-term investment, right? Your marriage is a long-term investment. Ain't that right, T? And it ain't easy and it ain't pretty, but it's just like the market. One day, we envision a bigger house, if you will. So we'll one day go from a parking lot to an enclosed place where fruits and vegetables are sold year round. But just like a marriage, you may start in a really small home, and dream together of something bigger, and then having a family, and then moving on. Well, this is no different. And so, the long-term investment of this is that, hey, you've got to stick with it. Any investor will tell you that, if you're changing directions every 5 minutes, you're not going to be sustainable in anything. And at some point, you have to get fully vested in something. And, for us at Endeleo, it's health, it's education, and it's community development. We are seeing the fruits of our labor. We did a social media post the other day, and we got so many responses from people who are seeing the fruits of our labor starting to bud, and it's starting to be recognized around the city, and it's very heartwarming to see the work that you do get its fair due. But at the end of the day, it's not about Endeleo. It's about neighborhood improvement. It's about the community realizing its own worth, and then and that's where it begins, because I don't think you can talk a funder into investing any money in a community unless the community wholeheartedly believes it deserves it. And I think what happens, it reverts back to the library. I think the library had gone in disrepair for so long that it had become part of the fabric of the community of Washington Heights. And I saw that 6 or 7 years ago, and I said, boy, what could we possibly do to kind of galvanize the community around something that everybody could relate to? And that Woodson Library was staring me in the face, but even I had gotten accustomed to driving by or walking in and walking under the scaffolding and not thinking twice about it, until it dawned on me that, you know what? Get outside of your community and go see other places, and you'll see that they're moving forward, right? And that's because the communities that they are in demands it. And so what we hadn't done was demand change, because what tends to happen is you normalize your situation, and then it becomes part of the fabric of your community, and that's really, really dangerous, because now you're on the cusp of really deterioration. And I saw this term called middle neighborhood, and I read about it in the Federal Reserve Bank, and they talk about middle neighborhoods that are neighborhoods all across the country, not just limited to Washington Heights, but communities that are not thriving, but they're not in abject poverty either. However, they face the imminent threat of deteriorating even further to get to that point, because there's no investment taking place in the community. And so for me, Woodson was a microcosm of what we were experiencing in the neighborhood. So if you drive today between 95th and Halsted and 95th and the Dan Ryan, you're going to see a litany of vacant buildings, vacant lots, boarded up spaces, high grass, and all of these things that didn't happen overnight, but little by little, these things start taking place. And the first time you say, oh man, look at that vacant lot over there, there's nothing happening, and then you come back and you see it again and you make another comment, and then 5 minutes later you're driving by and you're like, what vacant lot? Because now it's become a part of your everyday vision. And I think in any community. It's not just relegated to an African American community. If you take any community and disinvest in it, and then it becomes a normal way of life, it just becomes part of your scenario. And so we've got residents in our community who deserve so much more. Highest home ownership rate in the city of Chicago. You can stop right there. When you talk about long-term investment, you're talking about that to the nth degree. I mean, that is when you invest in your home and stay there to the point where you're at 65% home ownership in your community, and there are other communities like, well-to-do Lincoln Park and Lakeview and all of these places, across the city that are much more affluent, yet you hold one of the highest home ownership rates. That tells you what investment means to this community. And so it deserves the retail and the commercial activity and the clean, well-lit parks and the walkable streets and, just all of the things that any other community takes for granted. Because you can take it for granted the other way too, right? You can be living in a community that has a Starbucks here, a Walgreens right here, a CVS across the street, a Whole Foods here, a Mariano's across the street, and all of these things, restaurants, just everywhere. You've got a decision to make in terms of what kind of fare you're going to eat that particular night. You can get sucked into this is the norm, right? And so that's what happens in reverse in communities that don't have any of these assets. And so I think this is just a pivotal time in Washington Heights for us in terms of community development and seeing what civic infrastructure investment can do to a community. I can tell you, just driving by the Woodson Library and seeing the parking lot full of cars, seeing reservations for study rooms and meeting rooms hard to get, that is literally data for success. That is the evidence that proves that the work that you're doing to improve your community is quantitative, because 26,000 people were coming to that library before the improvement, and now who knows, with the improvement of the outside, the Vivian Harsh collection that I mentioned, and all the amazing amenities. We've got a full slate of dementia programming now through I think the end of November. So if you know anyone that's suffering from memory loss or any sort of brain disease, dementia, that is the library to go to, because we have an array of experts from Rush, from the Alzheimer's Association, Northwestern Medicine. I mean, we are rich with academics and health institutions. The American Heart Association is a partner, and Endeleo has the privilege of chairing this library health advisory board. And so there's a renaissance taking place on the south side and along that 95th Street corridor. We're very proud of it. And so this farmers market that I hawk every week is just a microcosm of healthy food, health, wellness. I was watching a video last night about the DJ booth inside of the CTA station. Next week and in the coming weeks, I'm going to talk more about what we're doing around the CTA station and the exciting work that's going to happen in and around that station. But I was watching a video for the DJ booth and seeing folks get off the train dancing, folks getting on the train dancing. I mean, That's the good feeling that African American community should have, and that's what we're trying to manifest through what we do in health, education, and community development. So I don't take this space for granted. We are thrilled to come into your living room every Thursday, and I thank CAN TV for giving us this opportunity every week during the summer to talk about the wonderful work we're doing and the community building that we're doing. So please join us. I'm going to show you this one more time. Come to our farmers market, 467 West 95th Street this Saturday. There's only 4 weeks left starting this Saturday. Come and check us out, and we'll see you next time on Endeleo by any greens necessary. Take care.